Welcome to This Explainer. Go ahead and picture the items sitting on your grocery store shelves right now, or even the stuff tucked away inside your own pantry. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder about the massive, invisible mechanics required to get them there? Well, today we're going to unpack exactly that. We're taking a deep dive into the processed foods industry, a sector that is just breathtaking in its scale and complexity, so we can understand how the food we eat connects to a vast, invisible global web.
There is a quote from our source material that really hits the nail on the head here. It says, "The industry is characterized by large and complex ingredient supply chains. International opportunities are driving growth." And that perfectly captures our focus for this explainer. You see, the processed food sector isn't just about your local farms or nearby factories anymore. It is entirely defined by its massive global scale. We're talking about international expansion and cross-border ingredient sourcing that literally drive the entire sector forward. To understand this industry, we really have to look at the whole globe.
Now, to map out this chaotic global web, we need a rigorous tool, right? That's where the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB, framework comes in. Specifically, we're looking at their standard for the food and beverage sector. This framework isn't just a collection of feel-good metrics. It's the strict, standardized way that companies actually quantify their hidden global risks for investors. It takes these huge, abstract concepts, like climate change or food safety, and turns them into hard, comparable data.
Here is our game plan for today. 1. A global food web. 2. Sourcing from stress regions. 3. The safety traceability challenge. 4. Auditing the human element. And finally, 5. Measuring the massive scale.
Section 1. A global food web, mapping the invisible threads of our food supply. Let's zoom out and view the processed foods industry as a vast, interconnected web spanning the entire globe.
So how do you actually measure a supply chain that wraps completely around the planet? It seems almost impossible, doesn't it? But measuring this web is absolutely crucial for the industry. Why? Because it's a connected system. When one global thread is pulled, say there's a crop failure in South America or a major shipping delay in Asia, the entire system vibrates. Entities have to continuously screen, monitor, and engage with suppliers all over the world just to maintain a steady supply.
And out there in the real world, there are severe macro risks threatening to cut those threads. We're looking at major forces: climate change, extreme resource scarcity, and strict land management restrictions. Now, these aren't just environmental buzzwords for a brochure. These are the actual factors that cause massive supply availability fluctuations. And what does that lead to? Extreme price volatility. If a company can't manage these complex international supply chains, it's going to directly impact product price points and ultimately their corporate profitability.
Section 2. Sourcing from stressed regions. The hidden cost of water. Now we're zooming in on our first major vulnerability. When we talk about resource scarcity in the food industry, we're really talking about one primary thing: water. Companies don't just guess if a region is running dry. They use powerful tools like the World Resources Institute's Water Risk Atlas, Aqueduct. They track operations in locations with high baseline water stress, which means 40 to 80% of available water is already withdrawn, or extremely high stress, which is anything over 80%. By calculating the exact percentage of ingredients sourced from Tier 1 suppliers in these highly stressed regions, companies can anchor those abstract climate risks we talked about into incredibly hard operational data. But here's the thing. Water risk is incredibly multidimensional. It isn't just about physical drought or a lack of rain. It's really a complex battle fought on two different fronts. On one side, sure, you have environmental constraints, things like seasonal variation and climate change impacts. But on the other side, you have fierce regulatory and financial constraints. We're talking volatile water costs, strict restrictions on water rights, and head-to-head competition with municipal users, meaning everyday people and local communities who need that water to live.
And when we say fresh water, it's not a loose term. In the absence of local legal definitions, fresh water is strictly defined in these standards as having less than 1,000 parts per million of dissolved solids. That tiny number, 1,000, reminds us that fresh, usable water is a highly finite resource. Every 1,000 cubic meters withdrawn and consumed across this global web has to be tracked meticulously. Section 3. The Safety Traceability Challenge, Protecting the Consumer. Now, let's shift from environmental vulnerabilities to keeping the end consumer safe.
Maintaining food safety and traceability as ingredients bounce across this dizzyingly complex global web is a monumental task.
When tracking safety across borders, we rely on Global Food Safety Initiative audits. And these audits follow very clear escalation steps. It starts at the base level with minor nonconformances. Think isolated errors. But if those go uncorrected or if they're severe right off the bat, they jump to major nonconformances, which present a real risk to food safety. From there, regulatory agencies might step in with official notices of violation. And at the absolute peak of this pyramid, we hit the ultimate nightmare scenario: massive product recalls.
Drilling down into those recalls, we can actually see how risk materializes in two distinct ways. First, you have involuntary recalls. These are forced by regulators, meaning the company basically failed to stop a safety defect before the authorities had to step in. Voluntary recalls, on the other hand, are initiated proactively by the company itself to pull a product from the market. Tracking the total weight in metric tons of recalled food gives investors a crystal clear picture of a company's supply chain integrity.
Section 4. Auditing the human element. Ethics in the supply chain. We've tackled water and safety, but we absolutely have to zoom in on the human and ethical element. Entities have to audit the environmental and social impacts of their international Tier 1 suppliers. Those are the folks the company transacts with directly. To mitigate reputational damage and actually guarantee ethics across the globe, the industry relies on highly specific third-party certifications. You can't just claim your supply chain is ethical. You have to prove it. You use Bonsucro for sugarcane, Fairtrade International for small producers, RSPO for sustainable palm oil, and RTRS for responsible soy. Companies must calculate the exact percentage of ingredients purchased from suppliers carrying these verified stamps of approval. But listen, audits aren't just a simple pass or fail. It's all about the severity of the findings. The standards clearly distinguish between major and minor nonconformances in these social audits. Minor nonconformances are usually just isolated, random incidents that pose a low risk. But major nonconformances, those are critical. We're talking about the discovery of underage workers, forced labor, or practices causing immediate danger to life or the local environment. Identifying and rooting out these major nonconformances is absolutely vital for cleaning up the global food web.
Section 5. Measuring the massive scale. Quantifying the footprint.
After looking at all these hyper-specific risks, water stress, safety escalations, ethical labor, how do we even wrap our heads around the raw, physical footprint of these massive entities? Well, the SASB framework uses two very simple but incredibly powerful core activity metrics. One, the total weight of products sold, measured in metric tons, and two, the sheer number of production facilities worldwide. By measuring the millions of metric tons moving through the system and the vast network of physical plants, investors can normalize all the complex risk data we just discussed. It puts the true, staggering scale of these global operations into perfect perspective.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. The next time you're in the kitchen, really look at your shelves. Think about the epic global journey of those processed foods. What invisible international threads, third-party certifications, and hidden water risks are baked right into the food sitting in your pantry. It's a massive, incredibly complex system, but as we've seen today, every single thread can be measured. Thanks for diving into this with me today, and keep asking questions about the world around you.